Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fourth episode of the Hussein Mohammed podcast. I'm your host, the young Iraqi voice actor Hussein, and if you'd like to skip to any part of the podcast, you can do so through the chapters feature on YouTube or the timestamps in the description. Now, the guest for today's episode is a multi-talented professional. She's an actress on camera, in the theater, and behind the microphone, and also a singer-songwriter, vocalist, and a multi-instrument composer. She's been the voice of many characters in film, video games, audiobooks, and more, and she's composed music for many of the same things she's acted in. I'd like to welcome the incredible Rebecca Uesugi. How you doing, Becca?
Great. Thanks for having me on your podcast.
It's wonderful to have you. It's going to be a really awesome episode because not only will the viewers gain insight and learn about like some new stuff that I haven't like really delved into on the podcast. I'm just gonna like ask you a few questions that I would like to ask. I would like to learn from you. So I think this will be like a really awesome experience.
Yeah, for sure.
I wanted to ask you, so are you a full-time voice actor? Are you a full-time composer? How do you split the work between those things? Is it your full-time thing?
I would probably say acting is the majority of the work that I do. So probably like 80-20%, I do music occasionally, usually on commissions like from people that I know or, projects that I happen to be involved in. So that's typically what happens when they need music. And I
That's
just happen
awesome.
to be working on the project already. So, yeah.
That's really cool. And how long have you been like a full-time actor and musician? How long has it been this way? Like this is your sole focus?
About 3 years now. I started doing mostly the voice acting. I'm sure as everyone's aware, there is a lot of like changes happening in the industry with the pandemic. People were
Oh
going
yeah.
remote. And I actually had never really thought about acting professionally until the pandemic. And then I was just kind of like, you know what? I'm going to
Oh.
do it. I don't want to have regrets for not trying. So I
Mm.
started with voiceover and I started actually doing on-camera stuff like remotely as well around the same time.
Oh.
So, yes, it just kind of happened that way where, people were doing a lot of like UGC ads. Like, for people who don't know, UGC stands for user-generated content. So, a lot
Ooh.
of social media ads like TikTok, YouTube, a lot of brands are putting out little things here and there. It's not like fully like produced like in a studio. It's just handheld, like usually from your iPhone. They want it to look
Oh
very
yeah.
organic,
Mm.
so it really was just kind of a good time for me to do that. And it was convenient because I didn't have to go anywhere, you know? So,
Yeah, that's awesome. I think a lot of people, the pandemic like birthed a lot of that stuff. Like basically it gave remote talent a lot more opportunities, and it's just we were just like accepted as like basically put at the caliber of like actual in studio work. Um,
mhm.
and I think that just opened up a lot of opportunities for people, including me. I also started 3 years ago, so it's like a lot of voice actors did. It's really cool, and a lot of, as you said, I've actually never. I didn't know that you did like you. I knew you could do on camera auditions remotely, but I wasn't. I didn't know that you could do like actual on camera work remotely. That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of cool actually. I did this series with Sally Mae,
Hmm.
and they had just kind of like how you would do a remote VO session where you're on Zoom and then they're just kind of directing you like, oh, let's do a take like this. Let's try it again like this, and then at the end I just send them all my footage and it's good to go.
That's
But there's
awesome.
also
Hmm.
ones where they don't even direct me. They give me the script, tell me kind of like what they want, and then I just do it.
Oh, that's
So,
awesome. Yeah,
yeah.
that's really interesting. And I had another question. So has this like love for the arts and acting and music, has that always been a thing for you? And did you actually like do it professionally prior to this, like on smaller scales, or how did that happen?
Well, I started in the theater when I was a kid, so
Mm.
I would probably say around 11.
Oh wow.
But even before that, I've always loved performing and doing music. I started playing piano when I was, gosh, maybe like 5 or
Oh,
6. Like
wow.
ever since I could remember, actually.
Yeah.
I've always been just kind of messing around on the keyboard, and started playing guitar when I was 14.
Oh,
And I
that's
just kind
awesome.
of, I've always loved music. And
Mm.
then for acting, I've always really been into musicals. So it's kind of funny. My introduction, I guess, to theater is Phantom of the Opera. And so when I was maybe 9, I changed it. I adapted it so it could be performed by 2 people. So
Oh.
my friend at the time, she was like living in apartments near me. So she was Christine, the main female lead, and
Mm-hmm.
I was everyone else. So I it was a lot of costume changes, like quick changes. And then we just performed it in my house and, like for friends and stuff. But I mean, it was fun. And I think that was what kind of got me into theater because I was like, oh, this is actually something I'd like to do.
Yeah.
So,
That's
yeah.
so
So I
awesome that.
joined the
Mhm.
children's theater.
Oh, right. So yeah, I think because like our cultures, countries, incredibly different. I didn't have
Mm.
the experience that you had with like I never discovered my love for music and acting and the arts like until the like 2020, the start of 2020. That's when I really delved into it. And
Oh.
yeah, I was when I that's when I was 15. I was 15 in 2020. I'm 18 now, which is yeah, yeah. So
So there
that's
was
mhm.
no, like, opportunity to act, like, at school or, like, in community groups or anything like that?
Never, never, not once. That I just never happened. I never even had the opportunity to really like play an instrument or like sing. I think like singing is kind of like you could say a little taboo here, which is weird to say, but it is. Uh,
Really?
yeah, like
Oh, I didn't know that.
so this is I mean this is a little bit of religious territory. Some Muslims think that singing is like not accepted. Like it's not accepted in the religion. Like if you do it, it's like not a good thing. It's called haram. It's forbidden, and some people go by that.
Oh.
So in society generally, it is looked down upon, but not like not illegal or something. Like you can do it, of course. There's a lot of artists that are Middle Eastern
Mhm.
and that are Arab, but it's just
Mhm.
generally. I spoke about this in previous episodes. It's like that art class is not respected enough here, and people don't respect art in general enough. Like there's a lot of people that
Mhm.
do. We have a history, we have museums, we have a lot of stuff. But most people just kind of look down upon it because it's just not giving justice in school. It's just not given the proper, you know, like we don't have theater
Mhm.
class. We in art class is just it's just nothing here. Pretty much
Mhm.
nothing. So yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't discover acting or voice acting. I loved it my whole life. There was a seed planted in me from playing video games and from watching cartoons and watching movies. There was a seed planted in me of loving performing and acting and stuff like that. But I never got to try it or understand it or study it until I was 15, and I was just like I was just the pandemic came along and I was like, okay, I'm not doing anything. I should be doing something with my time. And that was like the first time that I actually like felt like how do I explain this? It feels like my whole life I just kind of didn't know what I was doing at all. Like, and then at that point
Mhm.
I was like, wait, I actually am useful. I can do stuff. Yeah. That was like the
Uh-huh.
first time that I was like, "What? Okay, this is cool. I'm gonna keep doing this." Like I basically what I how I started was I made a video, like a few videos on YouTube, which were like parodies and stuff like that, just doing voice impressions of characters and stuff like that, and putting it together in like a meme format. And I thought I would like the video editing aspect of it. I thought I would like just putting that stuff together and making content. But it turned out that was like the thing that I didn't like. And what I really liked was the impressions and the voice acting and the performing those characters. And so I was like, okay, this is interesting. I'll look into it. And so I did. And basically, I started auditioning on Casting Call Club, and I booked my first ever
Mm-hmm.
role, but then I got unbooked from it because I was 15, and they were like, you can't be 15 on this project. Uh, yeah, and it was wild. That's when I
It's the
started.
curse of having a very mature voice at a young age.
Yeah. I was trying to do a Kratos impression at that age, and I was doing a pretty good job. I don't know how at 15 I could voice Kratos, the manliest voice in gaming. I somehow was able to kind of get close to that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very impressive.
Yeah, thank you. I also wanted to ask you, I was inspired by video games like God of War. I was inspired by um like in music. I'm just doing music as a hobby, so it's not really like I don't really have main inspirations right now. But
Hmm.
for you, who were your inspirations? What works, what people inspired you to like really start doing music and really start like or like actually inspired what you do right now or how you do it?
Oh man, that's such a hard question
I
to
know,
answer.
I know, right?
Well, for music, I would probably say well, I mean, I have so many like things that I draw from, but I think my favorite band being Pink Floyd. They're
Ooh,
a huge inspiration for me. I also, but I listen to so many different kinds of genres. I've rock, hip hop,
yeah, I get
bossa
you.
nova,
Mm.
just like, so I kind of pull from a lot of different things. For acting, I think my biggest inspiration was probably my first director
Mm.
at the Children's Theater. It's called Willow Glen Children's Theater. And his name is Gavin Coughing. He was just a phenomenal director. He was funny. He was he was also very hard on us. But I think that gave me a good work ethic. And then something that he would always tell us stuck with me. How every performance we do is a gift for the audience. And
Ooh.
it's up to us, like our skills and our craft, and how good of a gift it is. Like, is it something that they're happy to receive? Is it something that they're just kind of like enduring, you know?
That's really
So,
nice. Yeah.
but but yeah, taking it from that perspective that it's a gift that you're creating, you're giving, that has really shaped me all throughout my acting career and my music as well, like any kind of performance arts that I do.
That's so
I also
wonderful.
do taiko, which is Japanese drumming. So it's
Oh,
kind of a music and a performance art at the same time. So,
that's really awesome. I think that the fact that that was like seed was planted in you at that young age, and those words, like that would definitely change a person. Like the fact that for you it is a gift that you are giving. Uh, like as I said, I was never given that, and the thing is, right now, that's what you're describing is the fact that it is a gift you're giving to the audience. It's giving back to people. I'm only learning
mhm,
that now. I'm only just now, like this year, I started learning the importance of art in general, like just to people and just to myself as well, how fulfilling it is to the soul to be able to express yourself in acting and in music and in other performance arts.
mhm,
I'm only discovering that now. So I'm listening to people like, for example, Christopher Judge, the voice actor or the actor for Kratos, because he did the mocap, uh, and
mhm,
the cast of those actors like talking about what it means to be on set with other people, what it means to work and share that work with other people, and also how seeing the audience love the work affects them and like makes them even more fulfilled and more proud of their work. That's when I see like, oh wow, that's the stuff that is the most important, what people take from the art that you're doing. And
mhm.
I'm only just learning that now. I'm only just really understanding that now. And I'm really glad I am because like for the longest time I was just like doing acting and voice acting out of like self-fulfillment. Like not just self-fulfillment, obviously I wanted to like pursue like a passion. I wanted to understand myself through the art because this is the first time that I actually am passionate about something. Like I'm not sure if I spoke about this on the podcast. I don't think I have. Um, but basically, at the time, right before the pandemic started, it was a very tough time in my life because stuff was going on at home, and it wasn't a great time. Let's say let's say that it wasn't a great time, and
Mm-hmm.
for me, I was in ninth grade, and I literally gave up. I gave up at that time. Like I didn't know what was going on. I just didn't want to study. I didn't want to do anything. I was like, I just was so confused. That was the most confused time of my life. To the point where I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I started crying to my parents. Like, I don't know what is going on. I don't know why I can't study. I don't want to study. And I just like everything just like kind of was starting to fall apart until I discovered voice acting. Until I discovered
Mm-hmm.
what art is and what that stuff means to me. And for the longest time, I always wondered. Like people will say, I want to do this, or I want to be like they know what they want to be. And of course, not everyone
Mm-hmm.
knows, but people at least have a vague idea of what they love and what they enjoy. And I just never had that. And like at that point, I was like, okay, I finally have something. And this is it. Like this is a thing. Usually at the time, everything that I like hung on to, everything that I discovered and that I loved, it was like it just came and went. It was like something that I did for a while and I got bored of it and I lost the passion immediately until I found voice acting, until I found the music that I truly enjoy and artists that I truly align with. That's when I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh wow, I finally feel like, an actual person. I feel like myself. I feel like who I'm supposed to be and how I'm supposed to express myself. Now I understand what that is. So that's I think
Right.
yeah, that's why I think art is so powerful. And I always encourage people to like just try everything. If they don't feel passion for exactly what they're doing, they should just jump into it. They should try it. They should try new things. And because that's what helped me. So, yeah.
Yeah. And it's so crazy that you also like discovered all of this despite not having exposure to it, not having like really the cultural support or like how did that even happen that you decided to do that?
Well, I think just it was at a point where like I had before like prior to this I just the only like outlet that I expressed myself through was either just talking to people or posting like simple like gaming videos on my phone or something like that. And I just didn't know. I thought just content creation was the only thing that was like, okay, that is kind of my art. And that was kind of what I did. And I didn't do like content creation like a lot. Like I only maybe on YouTube I posted like at most when I was a kid I only posted like 30 videos and most of them were like just like recording my phone screen and just like saying a couple things and just posting it. So
Mhm.
that was the only thing that I knew. And so I was like, okay, I'm not doing anything. Let me just try content creation again. Let me see where that takes me. And the funny thing is, like, my inspirations were just like those very, very stupid, silly meme videos. Like Will Smith goes to buys drugs, or like Yoda sells ketamine or something stupid like that. And that's the inspiration. That was the inspiration for like me doing voice acting and me using my impressions because for the longest time at school, like my thing was I just used to like do a Will Smith impression or like do a Morgan Freeman voice. Literally one time I learned like I think that was the point where I actually hit puberty and I just did like a shout in school. Like I shouted and my voice did a growl. And I was like, wait, I can do that? And I was just like, I kept doing that. I was very annoying, but I was like, my voice can do something really cool. And like I took all
Mhm.
of those things, the impressions, the fact that my voice has a unique tone to it, and the fact that I can speak English so well. Um, I took all of that stuff and I applied it to and my knowledge of video editing and the fact that I had a laptop finally at the time. I was like, let me actually try this. It was like a moment where I combined all of those things, and
Mhm.
like I didn't really have support like until like because it was a very tough time. It was a very tough time in life, and so I like it was just like basically this is a little personal, but I got to get into it. It was just me and my mom in an apartment, and my mom was like getting like really sick. And thankfully, the pandemic, like obviously the pandemic hurt a lot of people, but it was kind of a blessing in disguise for us because she didn't have to go to work anymore. She was really sick at the time, and I didn't have school, and basically my grades were terrible. But school stopped, everything like what it was like a calm moment. It was like the perfect thing that could happen at the time for me, and
Mhm.
I just put my all into like this. First of all, the videos that I made, I really worked hard on them. I tried to make them the best that I could, and they're still like very silly. They're not like very well put together or anything. It was just like the first thing that I could do, but
Uh-huh.
it was at a time where I was like, okay, I'm gonna try something new. I'm gonna find something that is actually like fulfilling, something that is actually good for me, and that's how I got it. Even without, you know, particularly like family support. Like our family is not very supportive, and that's why, as I said, it was just kind of me and my mom at that point. Um,
Mhm.
so it was a tough time, but my mom's strong. I'm strong. I learned that from her, and I just kind of pulled through. And by the end of 2020, somehow convinced my mom. This like in Iraq, Amazon, you can't ship directly from Amazon to Iraq. Like you can't buy stuff directly. It's a weird thing. We
Mhm.
don't even have PayPal. It's like a weird whole weird thing here in Iraq. Um,
Yeah, I've heard your,
yeah.
PayPal complaints many
Oh
times.
yeah. It's still like it's still stitched together the way I receive my payments from clients.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
But, I mean, yeah, it sounds like I'm glad that everything with your mom worked out, and it
Mhm.
it sounds like from what you've told me that she's an awesome person, so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's great to just at least have someone in your corner that can, support you on things like that.
Totally. Yeah. It's really great. It's very important to have that inspiration. And as I said, like my mom, I didn't realize it at the time. I didn't realize, as I said, I'm having a lot of revelations maturing this year. I'm 18 finally. I'm kind of learning stuff. So I'm learning how big of an inspiration my mom is to me, and I'm learning the importance of inspiration and being inspired by your art and being inspired by people. And yeah, it's really, that's why I asked you the question of where you got the inspiration, because that's the most important part. It's what the seeds that were planted, it's what they grow into, and I think that's very
Mhm.
important.
Yeah, I think especially, like, in a profession like this where you will get more no's than you will get yeses,
Mm,
like, you have to find internal motivation. Like, it has to be something that you find joy in, and even auditioning is a gift, You are
yeah,
creating something and putting something out. Who knows who's gonna listen to it, if it's gonna lead anywhere, but you are in the act of creating, so like how they always say, like, auditioning is the job, like, it
yeah,
really is. So if you feel like, "Oh, I'm not booking anything and, this is terrible and I'm no good," like, you're just
yeah.
gonna burn yourself out, and it's not gonna be fun anymore, and at the end of the day, like, you really have to just enjoy what you do, otherwise you're not gonna be able to do it for
I
very long.
totally agree. And yeah, it's just like it's a balance at the end of the day. It's a balance of how important that thing is, how much you are inspired to do it, the things surrounding it. Because at the time, I school began again, and I still went. I still did voice acting, and the thing is, my mom realized this is that having voice acting, it inspired me and helped me to like actually get better at studying and actually care about studying, because as I said,
Mhm.
like at the time I didn't want to study. So this passion came along, and my mom understood, like, if when you do voice acting, you're just more yourself. I'm just like I have the actual motivation to do other things because this thing is fulfilling to me. As you said, sending in auditions, that's an expression of yourself. That's putting yourself out there. And just like doing that, even if I didn't get anything back, I didn't care because I was like,
Hmm.
I'm building towards something, no matter what. I'm working towards getting the work that I need to be doing, and if I just keep working, then the good things will come. I didn't stop. I never stopped.
Yeah. And, if it's really unfortunate that, I mean, even in America, there's not enough like arts in the schools. But,
Yeah,
it seems like, when there's not enough funding, like art, music, theater, like those are the things that get cut first.
yeah,
And just to not even have that as an option for you, like that, I mean, that must be really difficult, I think, for probably a lot of people in like creative, vocations or who are interested in the arts, to not have a way to develop that.
totally. And that's why it's foreign to so many people. I'm just like betting there's so many people out there from from Iraq or from and any of the Arab countries where like that stuff isn't taught, or even in America where the funding isn't enough to get music class or art class to be what it's supposed to be. I'm wondering how many people out there have that seed sown into them, but they don't realize it. How many people
Right.
have that passion inside of them for the arts and have that love, but don't realize that they can do it, you know?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
another thing too is that I feel like people have to like they feel like they have to monetize everything. And
Yeah.
if you have a skill, oh, you should make money off it. You have to, like you got to make it a side hustle. But I mean, you don't even need to do that. Like if you just want to make it a hobby, there's no reason you can't just enjoy doing something, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I totally agree. That's why I'm making music. Like I make music just on my computer. I don't have instruments. I do want to learn how to play instruments. I do want to learn music theory. I want to learn how to play the piano because I like playing stuff live. Right now, when I make music,
Mhm.
I make it on Logic because I'm on a MacBook. When I make
Mhm.
music, I literally always just I hate going on the piano roll and just putting the notes there. I love like on my keyboard just playing the notes using my keyboard and like
Oh, okay.
playing the instruments instead of just like going on the
So you
piano
have a
roll.
keyboard too, right?
No, no, on my actual laptop keyboard. I can't afford a MIDI keyboard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah. Uh
Yeah,
mhm.
I mean, you gotta work with what you have too, but I mean, I would love to hear your music. I didn't actually know that you did music.
Yeah, I just do it as a hobby, and I don't really like. I want to at some point. I want to once my focus on voice acting because right now I feel like I'm making up for the whole. Basically, I had a whole 10 months, like well, not 10 months, like 8 months of hiatus from voiceover because I had to focus on my last year of high school. I basically didn't audition for any open auditions or put myself out there or advertise myself. But I did audition for stuff that came in the mail or the jobs that came directly to me. I worked on those.
Mhm.
Um, so I feel like right now I'm making up for those 8 months. I feel like I'm making a push. Like I literally in the past like 2 months, I've made this podcast. I've applied to an agency. I've made a commercial demo, and I did a lot of stuff. I'm just making up for that time that I lost. And once like I feel like I'm at a good point where I've like pushed through enough, I'll actually start focusing on music more and actually like pouring
Mhm.
the love that I want to pour into music because I want to work on projects and actually like focus on them. Right now, all I'm really doing is just like getting like if I'm feeling it, I get on Logic, like put a couple of software instruments, and I play some instruments and I put them over each other, and I make a little beat, a little composition, and I just leave it there. I just don't touch it again, and I work on something new and try something new, and it's just for fun and learning new stuff. But I actually want to put my focus and refine a project to the point where it's like actually good. But I will send you some stuff
Mhm.
that I'm actually like like pretty proud of. It's not really not bad. I will send you some
Uh-huh.
of that stuff.
Okay, cool. I mean, yeah, this works in progress is totally fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting too that you say that like you have to make it for lost time.
Yeah.
But like I don't know. Personally, I feel like, the work is always going to be out there,
Mm.
and I don't feel like people need to make apologies for focusing on one thing or another. I mean, voice acting it's more of like a marathon
True.
more
Yeah.
than a sprint. So yeah, you will have like times where you're like busy, times when it's slow, times where you just don't have the energy or the focus to do it, and I mean, all of that is okay.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah,
you know?
I agree with that. Of course, I'm giving myself breaks when I need to. I'm not putting. A lot of people put a lot of pressure on themselves, just a lot, and like I
Mhm.
know someone that is very close to me, and like I don't understand how someone can put that much pressure on themselves. Like, please, your health is important. Like I don't understand.
Yeah. Yeah, and, there's also, like, your body is the instrument, so, I mean, you gotta take breaks or else you're gonna, like, ruin your voice.
Yeah,
Like, people lose their voice over, like, doing, like, back-to-back gigs if it's, like, too much, like, intense yelling or whatever the efforts are. Like, you have to kinda build in downtime also.
yeah, totally. And not just for voiceover, a lot of things. Like I don't understand. Like when I was a student at school, I don't know if I'm just like I don't know if I'm just like my brain works differently, but everyone used to like stay up sleepless nights and like like absolutely destroy every ounce of health that they have just so they can like
Mm.
score extra on a test that won't even matter in the final. It doesn't matter. Like it doesn't like give them an extra thing. It just they just put that much effort. And I understand some people that's their of course your dream is to get to a point of like you have fully memorized the material, you have fully like you have full control of what you're supposed to study. But at the same time, your health is more important than any of that. Like it's just balance.
Mhm.
People forget how important balance is. Like I don't
Mhm.
know. I don't know. Just some people like drink energy drinks, stay up to like 5 a.m., have completely sleepless nights, like stay awake for more than 24 hours. I don't know how they do it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
And, like, your
Yeah.
body needs to sleep too in order to memorize stuff, like, it has to process it sometime,
Yeah.
right? So, it's not even, like I don't think it's good for your ability to study and memorize things either.
Totally. And also, the teachers put that teachers at least here put that kind of pressure on some students, and like there are a lot of teachers that do that. They're like give you a bunch of tests, give you a bunch of material. Me personally, if I was in that situation, I'd be like, I don't care about the score. Like, why would I? Like, I'll pass and I'll work it out. Like, why would I like kill myself over this? It just
Mhm.
doesn't make sense. Like, it's just weird. But I guess people are really focused on their dreams. At the same time, of course, I will always like care for my health. But seeing people like put every ounce of their being into something like that, it makes me think like how important is that to you? To really put that much
Mhm.
effort into it. And it also inspires me. As I said, even though the person that I said the person close to me is doing that thing, but like, you know, it also inspires me, like how much effort they're putting in. So I always tell them take care of yourself. They don't listen. So I'm like, okay, maybe you're doing something right that I'm not. I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, it is a very personal choice. Like,
Yeah.
I also agree that you need to find balance, and I don't know, maybe it's just my own personal experience, but I mean, I felt like if you just kind of like, you study and you keep up with it, you don't need to cram it at the end. Like, you should have all the information that you need,
Yeah.
if you don't just like forget about it for 5 weeks and then you're like, oh, I got to study for this exam. Like, you know,
Yeah, you gotta
it's not like
lay it out.
it's a surprise. Like all of this has been, reviewed and
Mm.
explained already. So yeah,
Yeah.
I try to take, at least, when I was in school, I just kind of try to like keep on top of it and do the readings and stuff. So like I wasn't overwhelmed at any point.
Yeah, I just kind of, I've always just kind of like, I prepared a lot for my last year of high school. That was the most preparation. I think everyone did that because it's the most important year. Like the GPA is the only GPA that matters in your entire school education, which is like, I think it's stupid that the only GPA that matters is the last one, is the last year of high school. That's the only time, like the only GPA that they will calculate and that will like factor into what
Oh.
college you go to. So it's the school year where everyone like switches up. Everyone's like, oh yeah, I gotta actually be a student. Like the rest of the years are just like, yeah, I'm just, I'm chilling. And just the final years was like, you absolutely destroy yourself. Like some people, like, I don't know how they do it. Like, I mean, our year was kind of chill. A lot of the material was cut down. So maybe I'm just like privileged or something. I don't know.
Wow, that's crazy that only the last year is counted.
Yeah.
And then so that makes everything weigh so much more.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit of a stupid
Uh,
system because, like, of course, if you're gonna do that, everyone's just gonna put, like, it's just more pressure for no reason. Like, I think a student
mhm.
should be measured not by what like they can do at a single burst, like, or like a single year, but like, education for all years should matter, is what I'm saying. Like, if
Mhm.
a student shouldn't have to learn like a
Yeah.
bunch of new material, or the teacher shouldn't have to only focus on one year.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah. And as I said, I've had no formal like art education. But I still want to learn like the technical side of acting. Like I still want to understand how to actually analyze a script, how to approach certain characters. So I wanted to ask you, what was it like to like study acting? Where did you go to school? What were classes like? How was it?
Well, I mean, honestly, it wasn't dramatically different from when I was in high school. It was, I took like theater acting classes in college. I went to UCLA and
Mm,
I took a bunch of theater and film classes there. And the technical part about like, like, well, for theater, there's a lot of things like you have to cheat out, like you face the audience.
yeah.
There's like,
Projection of your
stage
voice.
combat. Yeah, projection. I mean, all of those things, you just kind of I don't know that I learned too much specifically
Mm.
about that. It was just sort of like project, use your diaphragm, and then you just kind of have to figure out what that means, you
Oh
know?
yeah.
But definitely after I started voice acting, I looked into specific classes. Um, I did improv with the Groundlings. I did a lot of VO. Uh, let's see, what did I do? I did a 3-day workout and like seminar
Mm.
with Eliza Jane Schneider
Oh
with
yeah.
her, I think, Competitive Edge school.
Yeah.
I did classes with Joe Ackerman, Jun Yoon, Jesse Inokala. I mean,
Mm.
just whatever classes I could find. I I just like to do everything, and especially because I got picked up by an on-camera agency.
Oh yeah.
I started going into on-camera classes. I did like commercial classes, self-tape classes, more improv. So you just kind of, they're not all like completely different. Of course, there's like things that carry over to different kinds of like acting genres.
Yeah.
So whatever I learned in voice acting, it also supported me in on camera and vice versa.
True. Yeah. I think especially like voiceover classes aren't just for like, you're not only learning how to voice act, you're learning how to portray characters and actually uh, just act. And I think that's why a lot of theater actors and on-camera actors can be amazing voice actors if they know what they're doing and they are properly trained in voice acting as well. I think just there is obviously a transition between those different types of genres. Not every on-camera actor can give that same energy off camera and on the mic. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's why a lot of people. Well, I mean, some actors like that are on camera can do justice by animation and like actual voice acting. But a lot of the time, the
Mm-hmm.
complaint of like celebrity voice acting. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Uh-huh.
it's just not your thing. You're not. People think that they can just get into voice acting and it's not that big of a deal, and there's not much to account for, especially like big on-camera actors, maybe, or even celebrities. They don't really give much regard to the craft, and they don't really like think about the differences that they're supposed to think about, um,
Yeah.
and that creates
Yeah, it's
trouble.
different.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that you can do on camera to get your message across, what you're feeling, but when you're emoting purely with your voice, it's just a different beast.
Yeah.
And I think that while yeah, some actors can make that transition, it's not like you can't just take that for granted. Like there's a whole, plethora of skills that you learn as a voice actor that you just don't really get. Or maybe, it's just something that formally trained actors don't always get. I never actually went through a formal theater program or acting program at
Mm.
school, so I can't really speak to what, that training involves. But yeah, I think that singing actually, like having vocal training
Yeah.
is also a really good way to prepare to be a voice actor.
So yeah, I wanted to ask about that actually. So what kind of classes did you take to learn how to sing? Like, what's like? Can you describe that process? Because I would love to actually like learn how like to take singing classes because I would like to have more control over my voice. So how does it? What's like the? Can you? Is there a way to describe the general process, or is it like an acting class where it's like a lot of complex things? Like, how did that happen?
Actually, I never took any voice training.
Oh.
Um, I just well, when I was in like middle school or elementary school, I was in choir.
Mhm.
So, we would just sing as a large group, but it wasn't really like personalized training or anything like that. You
Oh.
you just kind of learn how to read the music staff a little bit,
Mm.
like enough to where like if you're given a piece of music, you can kind of like know how to sing it, like sight reading. But other than that, I just like to sing. So ever since I was a kid, I would just kind of sing and play music and write music.
That's so cool.
So I had kind of an orthodox training, I guess,
Yeah.
non-training perhaps.
Yeah, that's really cool actually. So the question is, have you like studied music theory?
I did take one music theory class when I was in college, but to
Mhm.
be honest, like I kind of forgot everything. So
Oh.
yeah, sorry. Can't be more helpful
Oh,
there. But
yeah,
yeah, I
mhm.
play by ear most of the time. So
Oh, that's very interesting. That's very cool. Um, I mean, I thought like for me, I really want to learn music theory because when like I believe when creating music, I just kind of like I've only like literally at this point I've only played or created music in C major. I don't know any other scales. I don't know what I'm doing. A C major is like the simplest scale. It's just like the white notes.
mm,
And all I know about music theory is just what my composer friend has told me. So
mhm.
I just know the very surface level stuff. So yeah, that's
Uh-huh.
that's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you just kind of picked it up over the years, like playing instruments and singing and everything.
Yeah. Well, I did take violin class when I was in kindergarten and then again in 6th
Hmm.
grade. So, I kind of learned some theory and like how to read, but I mean for the most part I just played on my own. But I
Yeah.
think that it's really good to get that, music theory background because that'll help you to work with other musicians when they're like, let's try
Yeah.
it in the key of F, you could actually be like, oh, okay, I know how to do that. So for
Yeah.
me, it's hard to collaborate with other artists where I'm just like, okay, can I hear what you're doing? And then,
Yeah.
I'm more of a solo artist. So in a way, I actually do wish that I had gotten a formal training, at least to a point where I could understand, read music, and work with other artists.
Yeah, I've realized that what for me the importance of music theory, why I want to learn it, is not just to collaborate with other artists. I think it's just to be able to like be more intentional with the music. Because, for example, for you, you've been doing this for like decades. You've been doing music or like work, like just playing instruments, singing, stuff like that. You've been like at it for decades. Maybe not completely like consistently, or I'm not sure if
Hmm.
you've been doing it professionally for that long. I don't think you
No,
have.
no.
Uh, yeah, but you have experience. You have the ear for it. I only started really actually listening to music maybe 2 years ago.
Hmm.
Like genuinely, like I know my entire life hasn't been like a musically filled life. Like I was the only one playing music. Like no one in my family like actually played music or like loved music other than it just being ambient sound. So like I don't have the ear for it. I don't have the ear that many people have. For example, for sampling music, some people like to sample. I would love to learn how to sample music and to like make a sample into a whole new song. I would love to learn that. And that also comes, that's the thing, sampling. If you want to sample music, you're gonna have to see what key the sample is in, and like a lot of stuff to do with that. And like even if I know a key of the sample, I don't know how to play that on the keyboard. I don't know what that means.
Hmm.
So I want to learn that. That's the main reason that I want to learn that, is because I want to, when I get a sample or when I play something, I want to know how to match everything with it. I want to know how to make it sound pleasant. But as I said,
Hmm.
for someone like you, who has been around music like a lot more than me. Obviously, you're older than me, and you've been doing it for your entire life. I think it's much easier for you, and that's why you don't particularly need music theory to be able to compose and make what you make.
Hmm.
Um,
I mean, I'm sure I would benefit from it. So, I mean,
of
don't get me
course,
wrong. Yeah,
yeah.
I think what's important to I know you're like maybe not in a position to do this, but like just get like a keyboard if you can and just play around
Oh
with it.
yeah,
Because there's no way to really develop the ear unless you have an instrument that you can experiment with and see what sounds good and what doesn't.
that's
You
very
just
true.
can't get that same experience with like a program.
I totally agree. Which is, as I said, that's why I play. Basically, I play the keys of the piano on my laptop keyboard. Basically, A, S, D, F, G, H, J, etc. on the keyboard on my laptop keyboard translate
Mhm.
to the notes on the actual like on the quote unquote like keyboard on the program. That's what I love doing. I love to just play the keys on my laptop keyboard and it would translate to the music. It's like if I had a real piano in front of me. And I wish I could get like a, hopefully one day, maybe sometime in the future, I'll be able to buy like a little MIDI keyboard and actually have like the piano keys in front of me and actually be
Mhm.
able to feel them and like drum with my fingers more. So it just like to pick up the sound and to pick up the feel of playing an instrument and to actually like delve deeper into music. I would really love to do that. I think that's very important. And
Mhm.
yeah, that's a very important part of playing music, is feeling it and hearing it and being surrounded by it. A lot of artists, most successful artists, listen to all types of music and pick up
Mhm.
things from all different types of genres. And I think that's
Mhm.
very, very important for the artistic process.
Yeah, and even if you don't have an instrument, I mean, you could also do it with your voice. Like I
Oh
remember
yeah.
just doing like a cappella recordings. Like I just had a very like janky microphone. Like I
Hmm.
can't even imagine like how bad it was because it was just like really bad. The it was just like those like cheapy ones that you get like with like a video game where it's like, it's like karaoke, but then they give you like a USB mic.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
It's like one
no.
of those. But I
Oh.
mean, that's just what I had, so I would record some singing, then I would play it back on my DAW, and then I'd record another line, and then I just kind of build on like harmonies or create like, different melodies. And I mean, you could do that just with your voice.
True, yeah. I think that's why, as I said, sampling is really cool because I would like to do, for example, I would like to create my own samples. What I really love is because I don't have an ear for music. I haven't been, as I said, I've only been truly listening to music for the past 2 years. So it's not like I've been listening to music when I'm in a car for like when I was a kid, or like I have developed a crazy like a defined music taste. So
Mm.
sampling for me is difficult because when you're sampling music, for example, you'd have to have a catalog of music that you love or you've listened to, or you're consistently listening to new music to where uh, you hear a sound from a song and you can pick out that sound and then just like loop it or combine it with other sounds to create something totally new.
Mhm.
I love the art of sampling. Obviously, I think you've realized this by now because I'm talking so much about it. But I want to, for example, create my own samples in which, like, for example, I do a vocal sample, and just make a like a soulful loop out of it, you could say,
Mhm.
and then just make a whole song from it. And because, let's say I played a cappella, I'd like to add instruments that complement the a cappella that I made, because
Mhm.
I don't know what notes I'm singing in, so I'm really not sure how to play the instruments properly, if that makes sense,
Mhm.
and to complement my voice. Um, like let's say I do ha, and I want to play on the piano the same note. I wouldn't know that
Mhm.
note,
But you could
so
you could figure it out
yeah,
by hearing it, couldn't you?
that is I think that is good, but I would just like to know. Like I would like to know. Oh yeah, I'm singing this, then I'm singing this. I'd like to do it with intention. You
Uh-huh.
know?
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
I don't
because I
know
do.
off the
Yeah.
top of my head what pitch that is either. So
Yeah, I know.
so I
I
would do
think
the
most
same
people
thing.
don't.
I would just go
Mhm.
to my keyboard or my DAW, and I would just kind of go, "Okay, higher, lower. Okay, there it is." I'd find it,
Oh
and then
yeah,
I'd
and
then I'd see what key it is. Like, "Oh, okay, that's a G,"
that
just so you
that
would know.
also mhm, that also plays into the fact that you have a musical ear. I don't have a musical ear. I like my ear is not very like well trained into like hearing a note and being able to match it, or like being able to play the same note or stuff like that. Like my ear isn't as trained as yours. You've been
Oh,
playing the piano since you were a kid, so
uh-huh.
it's just more difficult for me. Like maybe I do that. I play that note. I play that note, and I play another
Uh-huh.
note that's close to it or similar to it, and
Uh-huh.
I would not know that it's just not the exact same note. So because my voice isn't like I would like that's why I want to take singing lessons. That's why I want to learn
Mhm.
music theory, because I want to have intention behind everything that I do, because for the longest time I've just been improvising. Like I've just been kind of you know, uh, instinctually doing it, which is working for me, obviously. But I would still like love to have a solid grasp on everything that I'm working on.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
So, so how is your process for composing music? Like, what do you start with? How does it happen? And how is it different from like one genre? Like, for example, if you're composing for a video game or if you're composing for something else, how does it differ in that regard?
Well, I mean, it really kinda just depends on my mood, really. I think,
Mm.
most of the music that I write, it just sort of comes to me from messing around on the piano or guitar,
Mm.
and then from there, I'll get an idea, and then I'll start layering, like, the singing, and then maybe lyrics will start to come to me. It just kinda happens, like, organically.
Mm.
Um, but it really depends, like, if, for example, I had one commission where they had the lyrics already, and then they had an idea
Ooh,
of what they wanted, like, musically, and then I built the song around the lyrics. So that was kind of a different experience, but, I mean, I did it,
yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so that was a fun challenge. But typically for me, it's the melody, like the music, the chords, like the melody, and then the words. But to answer your question about like different genres, for video games, I kind of try to make it a little bit simple. Um,
Oh yeah.
for one thing,
Mm.
actually, I am working on a video game project right now where they want me to
Ooh.
create a wander theme. So it's like a fantasy game where you're like wandering through like a forested area. So it
Ooh.
has to
Yeah.
be loopable. So,
Yeah.
it has to kind of like a slow build, a progression, and then it also has to kind of pull back a little bit because you know that it's going to loop again. So you don't want it to be like da 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 da. Like
Yeah.
it can't
Yeah.
be jarring. It has to flow. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm going to be working on that. But then like for like video for films or for like the audio drama that we were both in, which hasn't
Hmm.
quite gotten off the ground yet,
Yeah.
Erai's Destiny. Those have been pretty much just like writing a song like I normally do. So
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
That's very cool. Hmm.
yeah, but in a way, music is sort of like an extra character. So I try
Yeah.
to keep in mind like what the project is, like how it's going to
Oh,
be
for
used.
sure.
Like for Erai's Destiny, a lot of the music I did was just for the background. So it was just
Mm.
kind of instrumental, piano, guitar. There were some songs where it's specifically my character, Ayla, and she's performing it. So, I'm singing as my character. I'm playing as my character.
Oh.
And
Yeah.
I also wrote a song for Dale and I. Dale is another voice actor that was in Erai's Destiny. So I
Hmm.
wrote that song lower than I would normally because he has a deep voice.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah. We also had a duet that was supposed to happen. So I wrote two parts, a higher part for me and then a lower part for him. So we could
That's
complement
awesome.
each other. Yeah. I'm bummed
Yeah.
still that it hasn't happened. I don't know
Yeah.
when that's gonna get off the
Yeah.
ground.
It's been a while. Yeah. Erai's Destiny. I haven't heard anything. Like, has it
Yeah.
been over a year? I'm not sure.
It's been like, well, I mean, that was like one of my very first projects that I got,
Same.
yeah, I was cast in it. I was like, yes, finally. So, so that's how we met. So it's
Yeah.
been about 3 years, right? Or maybe
Oh,
two and a half.
yeah. Let me see. Actually, let me see the server. It's right in front of me. Actually,
I
here it is.
want to say like March 2021
The last
or
announcement. Well,
something.
it was
Well,
just
like
like
when
an
we
update.
started.
It was the project apparently started, the Discord at least started
Uh-huh.
very early 2021.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
been that long.
Yeah. It's been like over 2 years.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's some projects stay dormant for that long.
Yeah. Funny story
Yeah.
about that one too. So David cast me in that role, and then like
Hmm.
3 days later, he had this some kind of like promo thing that he was doing, or like some kind of like convention thing. So he was like, "Oh, it'd be great if we could have a song. So I have it to show on Saturday." It was like
Yeah.
Wednesday. Okay, so I was like,
Oh.
"Oh, okay." So I literally wrote a song in 2 days, and that was the Ayla's song. God, what is it? What did I call it? Oh my
Yeah.
God, I can't remember now. But it was the very first guitar
Yeah.
song that was on like the Twitter feed and everything.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember. I mean, there was a trailer, right, for the project?
Yeah. We had a trailer
Yeah.
and my vocals are in there too. Aaron did the music, which it was amazing.
I mean, I have yet to like get any lines or anything. I haven't been involved in any of the episodes written yet. So some have like I'm pretty sure a lot of the voice actors, I think you included, have recorded their lines for like at least an episode, right?
Actually, my role hadn't come up yet. It was
Oh
gonna
my
come up into
god.
the next one, but that's when it got canceled or like on hiatus. So
It's been on yeah, it's been on hiatus since early 2023, January 2023.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Oh,
projects sometimes just have a pause like that, and
yeah.
or just kind of like just stay in limbo for a very, very long time.
Mhm.
I mean, even huge projects. I mean, this is an indie project, so it's understandable. But I've spoken about this with my friend Hisham on the previous podcast episode. Um, I've some projects, like the film that I was in, The Journey. It took a year from when I was cast to the release, a whole year, and it was just a dub. It wasn't like original animation, or it wasn't like a video game they had to develop. It was just dubbing it from uh, it was Japanese to Arab to English. Sorry, and we were cast, I think, sometime in September, and
Mhm.
the recording session was next year in March, and then it came out in like July of 2022. So the time frame is wild for projects, even projects that are like with established productions and everything, because delays can happen in certain parts of a project. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's what happened. But the thing is, even though the project, it's not really coming out anytime soon, uh, we joined these projects, we auditioned for those kinds of things, not only just to be a part of the project, but we, what we got through it. I mean, I met you, I met Diana, and
Mhm.
and so many other wonderful people from the cast, and
Yeah.
it's just wonderful. It's just wonderful to have that kind of experience.
Yeah, I'm really glad that we connected through it.
Yeah, so am I. And I think all of my projects, at least, yeah, most of my projects that haven't come out or didn't work out, I got like a connection, or I met a cool person through that project. Like for example, there's like a Dragon Ball Z animation that was supposed to be like, that was my first the one, I think, actually my second project that I was ever cast in. May have been just my first or my second, back in 2020, and I was cast. I even forgot my character. Wow. Did I really forget my character? Who was my
Yeah.
character?
I know, it's just like after a while, it just kinda, like, fades away. You're like, "Huh, what was I
Yeah,
doing there?"
I think I was supposed to play Goku? I don't know. Yeah. And I was cast for that, and nothing came out. Not a single thing from that project. It was my first, I think, my first, as I said, my first or second project. But I met a wonderful, wonderful person from it. His name is Chris, and he's like awesome. We're still connected. We still talk every so often. So,
Mhm.
you know, that's the important part, is that you do your part. You show up, you audition, you pay the courtesy to your castmates, and good things will come out of it if you are doing what you're supposed to do, you know?
Mhm. Yeah. And I think it's
Yeah,
also important that, like, you don't go into every interaction, like, expecting something from other people, like,
for
people can smell that
sure.
a mile away, but, like, when you make an
Yeah.
effort to really connect to people and, like, show interest in what they're doing, like, they'll return the favor, and, like, this industry is built on, like, who you know and, like, referrals and things
Mm,
like that, and you have to create those relationships. It can't just be like a superficial, like, "Oh, hey, by the way, could you do this for me?"
yeah.
Like, it
Yeah.
has to be built on something first.
For sure. For sure. But for example, if you're working on a project with someone, or you want to make a connection, you can't go into that expecting, oh, I'm gonna get something out of this. Oh yeah, I wanna I wanna know this person because he could get me to someone like higher up. I think
Mhm.
from that mindset is completely like, I never have had that mindset in my life. Um, and I learned that from my mom, to not really to expect things from people, and that was just kind of like removed from my personality. And I always tried to make connections. And right now, I'm just because these are like the most important years of my life. This establishes like my morals and everything that I'm gonna do for the next many, hopefully, if I, we don't know when we're gonna die, so I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna die after this. Who knows? So
No.
let me not jinx
You're
it,
s- You're
But
so young, Hussein. Don't give up yet.
yeah. So I don't want to jinx it, but this is gonna establish the actual like rest of my life. I want to build
Mhm,
something good. I want to when I meet people, I don't want to expect something from them. I want to
mhm,
like approach with love, approach with just friendship, genuine connection with people. And if they give me a favor, I'll always try to give it back. And I've been trying to learn that. Um,
mhm.
like yeah, just gonna keep saying I've been trying to learn that this year, but I am. I'm just trying to be a better person. I'm just trying to learn to be a better person in general.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's very important.
And it's also like, everyone who's in a creative field, like, I mean, obviously, there are people who make tons of money out of it, but for the
Mm,
majority, we just do it for the love of it. So, like,
yeah,
going in with like a team mindset, like, okay, how can we make the best product possible? How can we make, this, like, especially like if you're on set, like for on camera stuff, like to be kind to everyone, even like craft service
yeah,
people. Like, everyone is just there trying to do their best. For some people, they're just
mm,
like, they're there literally like all day. So
yeah,
to just be kind, like, don't just be a good person, you know? Like, you should do
yeah,
that anyway, right? But, like, especially when you're trying to work on something together and you wanna be invited back? You want
yeah, exactly.
your experience there being like, "Oh, yeah, that was so cool, we had Hussein do this, like, we should have him again for something
Yeah.
else?"
Yeah, you always gotta try to create the best thing. You can't try to obstruct anything or like try to have things go exactly your way. You have to be a team player, and
Mhm.
that's why I always like. For example, I did this. I spoke about this briefly in another episode, but basically, I did. There was this whole English language competition. I think I've told you about this. This Olympia. Um,
Yeah, yeah, I remember.
yeah. And basically, I was the director for the play. I wrote the play and I directed it for that Olympia. And it wasn't, it was the first thing that I ever wrote. It was the first story and like dialogue that I've ever written in my life. So it wasn't like it's really great or anything, but I was trying to make the best of it. I like spent countless hours researching like how to what like the important like aspects of theater, how I'm supposed to like what the difference is between theatrical and on camera, what the difference between theatrical and voice acting. And I was learning how to direct a play because like that's very important to have intention and to be able to portray the play in the best way possible. And I learned about blocking, projection, and my friends, which it was a seven member team, and I was one of the seven, and I was basically the team leader. And so my friends are not actors, and they've never acted in their lives. And they're like me, like before getting into voice acting, they're like me when I was in ninth grade, except I didn't discover voice acting and I didn't do all that. So they just know nothing about the arts or acting or stuff like that, and they're not deep into it. So I had to direct people and direct my friends who didn't know anything about acting or theater or like any of that stuff. And I always push them to do the best that they can do. And at the same time, I understood their limits and always encouraged them. And it's very important to not exclude people. Especially when you're in a position of being a director or a leader in anything. Like, I
Mhm.
don't know why a lot of people don't realize this. So you got to keep the team together. I like sometimes, someone was pushed away a little bit or someone like wasn't really doing what they were supposed to do and they made fun of them, but I always counteract that. I always go up to them. I was like, tell them, yo, you're doing good. you did better than last time, and we're gonna keep going. And that's very important, and that's like being a team player is very important. So I think the best skills that you pick up, and the best way to keep a team, and the best way to keep a production going is that attitude. So yeah, I think that's there are a lot of things that I took away from that Olympia and that whole thing. But what you said definitely is a huge one. It's the courtesy. It's the it's what you give comes back to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people also I don't know. I kind of feel like there's this, I believe in the idea of karma that, like what you
Yeah.
give returns to you. So if you're going in with the idea like you want to be a good person, you want to help out, you want to do a good job, that kind of stuff, it will just generate more of that.
Yeah, I think I've never like really actually cemented it in my brain, like karma and everything, but I'm learning that right now. I'm learning one of the many things that I am learning right now in 2023, in this year, you know.
In the
This is
year
one
of
of the
2023.
yeah, the very important year in my life is that doing good always comes back to you. So I always try to do good. I always just, try to give people love. And I'm just learning to, you know, be a better person and understand that karma is a thing. I truly do believe it. I truly, like you said, when you do good, it comes back to you. But you can't be thinking of like, oh, I'm doing good, so it comes back to me. Oh, I'm just only doing
Yeah.
good. Some people
Yeah.
do that, take it to
Uh-huh.
the extreme.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just gotta do it without the expectation, but understanding that what you're doing is the best thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And so also going back into composition and like the business side of things. So you work both as a composer and a voice actor. And as you said, you work as an actor more than you work as a composer. So
Mm-hmm.
how does it differ working with clients as an actor versus working with a client, especially specifically as a voice actor versus working with a client as a composer? And is there overlap between those with like the time frames and everything? How does that work?
Well, usually acting comes in later in the process. So I would think by the time you're cast in something, all the music and all of that stuff is already in place. So
Mm,
it's very specific, like what they want. Whereas when you're doing music, sometimes they don't really know what they want yet. It's kind of like you might be going back and forth a little bit, like with
yeah.
the dev, like, oh, we want something kind of like this, or like I feel like there's more of a collaboration that happens on the music side
Mm,
anyway. But there have been times where like I did music for a indie film and like there was voice acting and like the animation was already in place kind of. It was like storyboarded. But
yeah.
I was really composing it to that project already. So it just depends.
Mm,
But in terms of the amount of time that you get, I think probably music you get a little bit more time.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you just kind of and the fact that you don't usually have you worked with someone like directly while you're composing? Like you're making something and someone is on the call with you, for example?
Oh, no. That sounds
Yeah.
like, really anxiety driven.
Yeah.
Like, "Oh,
Yeah.
man, you're hearing this, crappy piece that I'm writing right now." No, I don't do that.
Yeah.
No one has ever asked for that either. I don't know that people typically do.
Yeah, I think those types of things, like they're for bigger projects. Like for example, like I want to get to a point. I want to work on projects where I do like more collaboration and it's more direct. And it's like,
Mhm,
as I said, I'm just like I want more intention because for the longest time I didn't really have that much intention before the stuff that I'm doing, and
mhm.
I never really planned. I only learned to plan in this year, in 2023. So,
In the year of our Lord.
yeah, in the year of Jesus Christ, 2023, this is when I learned to actually plan. So
Uh-huh.
I've never done that before. And so this is the only time where I'm learning to like set goals and everything. So I would really love to collaborate and do stuff with more intention. Like for me, of course, it would be anxiety inducing. I mean, like composing something like live, because I don't think it's like for example, let's say a hip hop artist. Hip hop is like you add elements like gradually. It's not like a composing a full piece. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes like for example, someone's maybe playing a drum and a synth, and someone comes in and they add like something or a sample or vocal to it or like specific bass, and
Mm-hmm.
everyone's be like, oh, yep, that's it, that's the one. But for like composition, it's like melodies, it's ups and downs, and it's very, very different um, in the regard that, uh, unless you're working with like another artist who has worked with composers before or is a composer themselves, it's
Mm-hmm.
difficult to like get into a studio session. I think it's just like some directors have to be experienced in that side of like
Yeah.
composition and like making music if they want to budge in and actually give you direction.
Yeah. Oh, I will
Yeah.
say, I have
Hmm.
done collaborations because I was briefly in a band. So
Ooh.
yeah, so actually we did like record our sessions sometimes, and yeah, it would just sort of start with like, drummer does this thing or bassist does this, and then we kind of build on it. And then
Yeah.
also I've done like vocal improv like for a taiko group, On Ensemble. They were
Hmm.
doing a performance, I wanna say it was at the Santa Monica Playhouse. But yeah, so they were just we kinda had a loose idea of what we were gonna do, but then they just gave me freedom to just improvise whatever vocals I wanted. So, I mean, there are
Nice.
opportunities to do that,
Hmm.
but I haven't done that for any projects, like, that I've acted in. Like, those were just, like, purely, like, performance or, like, just different,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
gigs, like festivals and stuff like that.
Yeah, I understand that totally. Like for me, I think being a composer and being like a musician or like a person who produces music is very different. So I'm thinking of the mindset of like, oh, someone just like making a project or um, working on something that they are making themselves, or they're making like how do I explain this? Music composition. It's usually a one man job to compose the music itself, and the rest is just like executing it in a way that works, or like modifying it in certain ways for it to work in the format. For example, working in a video game. But like, for example, creating music, like you said, it can be just a gradual process. It doesn't have to have specific intention when it's created, like composition does. Because in
Mhm.
composition, you're composing for a specific thing, like a specific mood or a specific situation or specific setting as ambience.
Mhm.
But when making a song, you just kind of are expressing yourself like fully. It's just you, or you're putting a part of yourself into creating that piece of music. So I think it's definitely a very different thing, because I would love to, my dream is to get into the studio, like an actual full-on studio, not just my little MacBook and like playing on the MacBook keyboard and everything. I would like
Mhm.
to actually get into a studio with other artists and people that are like friends that are artists, and work on something and create music and actually like put a lot of effort into it. I think that's just the coolest thing. Like, uh, for example, I see hip hop producers or rappers or stuff like that getting in the studio and just creating like incredible pieces of music together, and the energy that surrounds that, I think is incredible. I think that is such a cool thing.
Mhm.
Have you like ever thought of like making solo music like that?
Well, solo music is kind of like what I do most of the time. But
But like, do
yeah,
you
I would
publish it?
well, I mean, I have recorded some stuff like on my website and then a couple
Mm,
things like on YouTube, but I mean, maybe someday in the future. It's just hard to find time for both, you know?
true. Yeah, true.
Yeah. And in
Yeah.
a way, I also kind of like I like that music is more of a side thing because I
Mm,
feel like acting is my primary passion and I just like to have something that's a hobby that's not like
yeah.
I don't feel the pressure to monetize, you know? Like if it happens,
True.
great. If not, it's just something that I have for myself.
Yeah, I totally understand that. And also, do you have you composed? Do you only work with live instruments and then you edit it, or have you like played with like, for example, a DAW or creating like playing with digital stuff?
Uh I mean, to be honest, I haven't done too much DAW stuff.
Hmm.
Well, when I did take a, electronic music class in college, so I worked with the DAW then and, like, a synthesizer and stuff like that. So that was
Yeah.
fun, and then I also kind of experimented a little bit in, like, high school with, like, Cool Edit Pro, I think it was called.
Oh
It's, like,
wow.
a really old program, like, I'm sure it doesn't even exist anymore.
Yeah.
Um, or, like, Fruity Loops or something like that. So I did,
Oh yeah.
like,
FL
a little
Studio.
bit of
Yeah.
that. Yeah, yeah. So, see, before it was FL Studio, it
Yeah.
was called
Fruity
Fruity
Loops.
Loops. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was. So, yeah, dating myself a little bit. But for the for the most part, I just do live instruments and I just record it live. So,
Mm. Very interesting. I was also gonna ask you: are the cool projects like the coolest projects that you've ever worked on, where you put on like the most amount of yourself into them, that you feel like you were the most passionate about and you were the most proud of? What would you say is like the
let's see.
most unique experience?
For music, or in general?
Both. You can talk about in music. You can talk about in acting.
Okay, so for music, I would have to say probably Erai's Destiny.
Ooh,
So,
yeah.
because I did so much music for that. I did, like, for episode 2, I believe it was, I did,
Mm-hmm.
like, 4 or 5 tracks and in, like, a 48-hour period. Because
Oh
David was
wow.
like, "I need music," like, for some reason, like, Aaron wasn't available, and, like, it was, like, very last minute, so I wrote so much music. It's all on my
Yeah.
website too, if you wanna check it out. But, yeah, but that was really intense, and then I also wrote the intro track, for Erai's Destiny, like, there's a band that covers my version, but you can also hear my original song. I think it's also
Mm-hmm.
on my website. Uh
Yeah.
yeah. And then for acting, let's see, the coolest thing I really liked Sabok. It's a Korean live action
Oh
film
yeah.
that I dubbed for. I was,
Mm-hmm.
the main researcher, she's slash mother figure to the main
Yeah.
character. They have a very complicated relationship. But,
Yeah.
I think that was probably one of my favorite ones because it was the first dubbing project I did, and secondly,
Yeah.
it was live directed, so I could get feedback and I could hear and see the picture, so I was actually the first person to record, so I didn't have any of the
Ooh.
English dialogue to go off of. It was just the
Oh,
Korean. But yeah, it was just really fun. And then
that's
also
very cool.
probably this, a project that I worked on recently, I
Mhm.
play Kim, one of the companion characters, and Harold Delith, which is one of the, like, quest givers for Dark Envoy. Um,
Ooh.
so that was really fun because I also got to do that, as a live session, and the director who was doing it with me was just like it was just so much fun. We were just, like, laughing and having a really awesome time.
That's
It's just
awesome.
fun when you collaborate with people.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying, you know? That's the most fun part of the job. It's the collaboration. It's working
Yeah.
with people.
Yeah, so even if you're the
Yeah.
only voice actor, but like having a director, and she also happened to be the writer of that character, Kim. So
Oh,
it was a very personal thing for her to hear me doing the
yeah.
character. She's like, "It's great, no notes, like this is like what I wanted." So it was just really nice because when you're voice acting by yourself, you don't get a whole lot of feedback, and to hear
Yeah.
that someone's appreciating your performance, like it's really motivating.
Honestly, the last few recording sessions that I've had were all live. Like I did the Coca-Cola commercial live directed. Um, I did a new project live directed. I did this video game actually. I think this was the most like fun and wild recording session that I've had like ever. This was on Saturday. Yeah. I had to do. Oh my god, this video game. It's called Ground Branch, and basically I translated the script. Basically, it's uh, an FPS simulation, like military shooter. Um,
Mhm.
and it's a really cool video game. It has a sizable community, and they're basically doing I'm not under NDA, by the way. This is all this is all public information. By this
Okay,
point,
good.
I've announced it. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Basically, they're doing factions, different factions, and one of them is the Middle Eastern faction. They're doing Russian. They're doing like all types of things, and one of them is Middle Eastern.
Mm.
So basically, they gave me an English script with like a bunch of dialogue from like the Middle Eastern militia, basically, and I translated it from English to Arabic. I translated the whole thing. This is my first ever like
Oh.
translation job like that is like this.
And they paid you
Um,
for the translation too, right?
of course, yeah. I gave them a
Okay,
rate and
just
everything.
making sure.
Yeah, I know my friend. I also told my friend, my voice actor friend, about this, and he was like, "You gotta be sure you got paid. You gotta be sure you're not scammed. You're not like taking it not scammed, taken advantage of because like some people." I'm really glad that I listened. Like I've listened to podcasts and I've listened to people talk about voice acting because now I know like how important it is to have a rate for everything. Like some
Mhm.
people do so much extra work or ask for so much extra work and you're not getting paid for it. For example, translation, editing,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
should
And that's an
always be in the
ongoing
contract.
problem. Like
Hmm.
translation is a job. Like localization is a job. So like there are a lot of cases where voice actors are expected to translate often like in session. Like, "Oh, how would you say
Yeah.
this in your language?" And it's just like, "Dude, come on now. That's not what I signed on for? Like that's not my job." So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad that you had that know-how to negotiate it for one thing and just to know that that's not something that's required of the job.
Yeah, it's really the client like the that I worked for, the sound director for the entire game. He basically does he directs, he contacts and works with the actors. He edits the audio. He kind of programs it into the game, working with the programmers. He just does everything. He's a sound director for the game, and he's a really cool person, and I'm glad because he is really cool and understanding and very helpful. And so even like there was basically just an oversight. This it was a live session, and we didn't discuss rates for like a live session. We only discussed rates. I only discussed the per line rate because I thought I was going to record it alone. And
Mhm.
so we got into the session, and I totally forgot to ask him about this. When we got into the session, he started the stopwatch, and I was like, I didn't. We didn't negotiate something for that, so I'm not sure how it's gonna be. And he just completely was like, he stopped it. He was like, let's do a new contract, and that was awesome. We delayed it. We
Mm.
delayed the recording session a week just because, like, they wanted me to get the actual rate that I'm supposed to get. So
Mhm.
they're really amazing. Like it's not particularly like rare to find clients like this, but when you're working in the industry, there's a lot of clients that don't give you that consideration,
Mhm.
that don't have that courtesy, and I think it's just really wonderful that working with like professionals and working with people that really care about that stuff and people who really care about like paying their actors fairly, portraying things fairly, and just making a product that is that is like really good, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean,
And
a
so
lot of times as an actor, you also have to be an advocate for yourself. So
yeah.
it's nice when it happens where you don't have to do that, but I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, there's a huge learning curve, and it's something that I struggle with too because negotiation is, like, my weakness, you know?
Yeah.
Like, trying
Yeah.
to figure out the rates, but, I mean, you gotta charge what it's worth, you know? It's like you're only
True.
hurting the industry and other actors if you undercut and, like, just yeah, you're letting yourself get taken advantage of if you don't quote a good rate, so
Exactly. I think with clients that are like indie projects, of course you can't quote the rates that you would quote for like a big project, like with like a big studio, an established studio and stuff like that.
mhm,
So, you determine those rates. Obviously, some people just can't pay those rates, and you just gotta like understand that it's the choice is up to you at the end of the day if you want to take the job for that rate or you don't want to take it. It depends.
mhm,
And but when working with studios and when working with people who can afford that, it's you best to set the standard. It's best to not only for yourself, but for the other actors that will come after you. Because
mhm,
if you set a low rate for yourself, then when the actor actually asks for the fair rate, they're going to be like, well, this is not fair. This other actor paid us this. Why should we pay you this? So it's like,
mhm,
you know, it just sets a precedent, obviously. So it is a responsibility as well,
yeah.
not only to yourself, but to other actors.
And I think also it makes people think twice too. If your rate is so much lower than what the industry
Oh,
standard is,
yeah.
it gives a person probably like, "Oh, why are they saying this rate?" You know? So, I
Yeah.
mean, just to present yourself professionally, like, this is what it is, it's non-union is 250 per hour, so that's what it is, you know? Like, if you
Yeah.
can't afford to pay your voice actors, like, are you really ready to make this project? You know?
Exactly. Exactly. And always when I quote my rates, I always say I quoted this rate from here. I quoted this rate from here. So people, because I used to kind of, I'm still learning. Obviously, I'm only 18 years old, and I haven't been like I'm not a. This is my first experience into business and stuff like that. So, and I don't really have much guidance other than like fellow voice actors and like stuff from YouTube and hearing podcasts and stuff like that and asking people professionals for advice. I always ask and I always make sure that I know what I'm doing. And I made the
Mhm,
mistake once. Oh, I not once. I used to make this mistake where I used to be like really like firm with negotiating. I thought that's what worked. But like now at one point there's this really cool person that I met through the Olympia coincidentally. She is multi-talent as well. She does like shows. She's like a hype woman
mhm,
and a reporter and a voice actress, and just she does a lot of stuff, and she's very cool. She's called Miss Show, and I just used to make this mistake with negotiating, and I asked her. I was like, basically, I had a problem with a project, and I went to her and I asked her because we were like speaking about something at the time, and she was like w- asking me how I went about it, and I was like, oh, I was kind of firm. I was firm. I stood up for myself, and I mean, to be honest, at that instance, they were gonna pay me a very low rate, very low.
mhm,
But at the same time, I shouldn't have like been firm. I should have stood my ground, of course, but not have been aggressive or like over the top. Just be like, this is my rate. This is why I'm quoting this rate. What do you think? That's the
mhm,
important part. Is just making open ended but very firm in a professional way. And I didn't know how
uh-huh.
to do that at the time. Yeah.
Oh. I mean, I think it was good that you were firm on what your rate is. Like, you should never go lower than what you're comfortable. But
Oh,
yeah,
for
I mean, you
sure.
just put it in a way that it's like, "Well, this is my rate, I have would you like to move forward?" I mean, that's
Yeah.
really all it is, They have to decide,
Yeah,
and
but
obviously.
I didn't really know how to deal with it at the time. I was just kind of like a little too defensive, I guess, because um, it was the
Mm.
first time that it was just a first time thing for at that type of project. So I didn't really understand what I was doing or what was right and what was wrong. And But at the end of the day, it went well. It ended well. I was like, if there was an issue with, I resolved everything, and we just went ahead, and everything worked out in the end. And I learned my lesson in how to be professional, because even if the client is not being reasonable, even if they're not being very reasonable, when you're standing up for your rate, you have to be professional. You have to be the better person. You can't, even if they're like being the aggressive or firm ones. There's specific, like, for example, especially when working here with local client, let's say, it's different. I didn't understand. Sometimes I took things as being unprofessional, and sometimes they were with some clients. But like, there's just a common courtesy. You have to be the better person. If they're aggressive or like defensive, I can't be defensive back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have to be the bigger person, so I'm not, like, I can't be blamed for anything. I have to
Mm-hmm.
be a professional. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's an important thing that's a big lesson that I learned. Uh, this was I think yeah, early 2023. The Lord's yes.
There it is again.
Yeah, yeah, learning a lot this year. What can I say? I'm learning a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And not all clients are going to be like that. Like, there are times
of
where
course.
people just genuinely don't know what a fair rate is. Like, I've been doing audio description work with this company for, gosh, almost 2 years now. And to be honest, like, the rate I started with them was not the greatest. It was
Yeah,
it was, like, okay, but after a while, like, I was like, "Could we have a meeting? Like, I'd like to discuss my rates with you." And then I also broke it down, like, for how long, how many words, like, and then based on this, and I quoted, the GVAA website or something like that, so they could
yeah,
see, that it isn't just me coming up with numbers out of thin air. And they were like, "Oh, okay, sure, yeah, we'll pay you more." So, I mean, it's just having that confidence in yourself and being able to present it in a way that's not accusatory. It's just, these are my rates now, and let me know if this would work for you. And I was also like
yeah,
open to negotiating if it wasn't possible. But, as it turned out, they were happy to pay me the full amount. So, you just
yeah.
gotta trust in your value as, like, a voice actor or actor, whatever it is that you're doing.
I totally agree. I think it's always good to negotiate and to renegotiate. Sometimes when you're working on a long-term project, um, you just realize that the first rate may not have been appropriate, or maybe you've been working with this client for a while, and it's just been a certain rate for a long time, but maybe it's time to change that rate. Maybe you're not comfortable with that rate, or your timetable has changed. You're working on maybe bigger projects, or you're busy. Just there's a
Mhm.
lot of factors that go into your rate, and how much you're willing to budge, and how much you're willing to negotiate, and everything. So you gotta understand that, and just ask the client, and always communicate. I think the most important part in just any relationship, whether it's professional, whether it's a romantic, whether it's family, whether it's friendship, anything, it's communication. It's being
Mhm.
comfortable, because if you want a different rate for this project, and you're not asking for it, then you're gonna feel a little bitter. You're not gonna do the project as well as you should, because you feel like you're not being paid fairly. And so
Mhm.
always communicate. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people miss in general, and professionally, is how important that communication is for yourself
Mhm.
and for the other person.
Yeah. And, at the end of the
Yeah.
day, you're not just an artist, you're the CEO, you're the bank, like,
Mm.
the marketer. You have to take on all these different roles, because it really is a small business. Like, you are your own small business, and you have to treat it like that.
Yeah, for sure. And like as you said, I'm only like right now getting that confidence to actually negotiate and actually like understand how to go about it and what's how professional I should be and how lenient I should be. Like I used to be like very formal. Like I used to be like a very formal guy. Like my emails and my messages were like super formal. Like I'm just learning to kind of like let go and put more of myself, just put more me into it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um like being professional and at the same time just like not like being overbearing. That's very important, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think you're doing amazing, by the way, for being 18 years old. Like when I was
Thank
18, I
you.
don't think I would have been able to do any of this. So you're
I
doing
mean,
phenomenal.
yeah, I think it's just like the support of my mom, and I think it's just like I don't know. I feel like it's my brain making up for 15 years of my life when I was since like before 2020 of like basically doing nothing. Like it was just like I was learning. I like my brain may have been like cooking something, you know? My brain was cooking
Hmm.
something for those 15 years and it culminated
Hmm.
in this somehow. So, yeah, it's really amazing. It's really I'm just I'm glad to have all these opportunities and I'm glad that I'm able to work like this because, you know, if I wasn't able to do work remotely or, you know, do all that type of stuff, I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in right now. So I'm just really grateful for the opportunities and just, meeting so many amazing people like you. It's just really that's really what's changed the course to go into this direction that I'm going in and hopefully this direction is a good direction, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're ever planning to come out to LA, but if you
Hmm.
do, it would be really cool to meet up.
Yes, of course, yes, that would be awesome. I really do want to come to LA one day.
Yeah.
And
If you get an agent out here, perhaps.
ooh, yeah, yeah, totally. That's a
Knock
big
on
point,
wood.
actually. Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, yeah, let me. I had to actually knock on wood right there, wooden table right here.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I'm really hoping for the best. I actually really do want to visit LA. Um, because it's first of all it's the voice acting and the acting and the everything creative hub basically I would say
Oh, yeah.
maybe if I do get an agent hopefully I do get an agent because that would be just the biggest step in my career if I do book this agency CSD perhaps hopefully this works out we don't know. In our Lord's year 2023, will it work out?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I really want to thank you for coming on to the podcast. It has been an honor, wonderful conversation, and this was a lot of fun. It was really a lot of fun to delve into, your world of like composition and stuff like that, and to understand, your experience with voice acting and the arts in general. So thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you for having me on. This has been so much fun.
I'm really glad. And thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm doing the YouTuber thing. Uh, and
Hit that like and subscribe button.
hit that like button, subscribe, put the notification bell. I mean, do you need the notification bell? Because, each episode comes out every 2 weeks. Well, every other week. So next week's Wednesday, nope. The next Wednesday. So it would be the 15th of November. So
It doesn't hurt. Hit the
yeah,
button.
of course, of course.
Just do it.
Hit the notification. Hit the notification bell. Comment down below. Let me know who you'd like on the podcast. Don't tell me like Christopher Judge. I can't get Christopher Judge on here. Uh, but like some realistic. Tell me who you'd like to see on the podcast. And thank you for listening. And I will see you on November 15th if I am not dead and I'm not jinxing this. All right.
Oh no. Everyone pull for
Have a good
Hussein.
one.
We really have a health scare on our hands here. It's the second time he's brought it up. I don't know what's going on.
I'm gripes with mortality right now. I don't know what it is. You know, I don't want to jinx it. You know,
Going through an existential thing right now.
yeah, I'm going through. I'm totally going through. I'm always going through an existential thing, Rebecca. I'm always doing this.
It's like your
All right.
what would it be, like a quarter life or like a something life
Yeah.
crisis?
I mean, we don't know. Like, I consider both possibilities. You know, we could either, I could either die very early, or I will be immortal and live forever. So, this could be
One
a
of the
quarter
two.
life. Yeah, it's one of the two. I can't die like of old age. That's impossible. You know, that's not I can't consider that. You know, so
But then
we
you
don't
could
know.
really
Maybe
use
it's
your
like a
Kratos
1%.
voice.
Boy, I've been alive for, like, I don't know. I'm 18 years old, boy.